presentation. So since this is going to be interactive presentation, I hope everyone knows where their um, chat button is. So if you don't, please find your chat button, and then you can use your chat or you can use your reactions, but would love to hear from you while I'm presenting. So I get to know you a little bit better as well.
And Maria, can you see the chat while you're presenting?
I think I can see the chat while I'm presenting.
Okay, so I will let you take it. If you need my help, just let me know.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, all right, we're ready to go. Save Spectacular. This has been the theme for the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries for its 50th anniversary. And how many of you have heard about National Marine Sanctuaries before you attended a Beach Watch orientation? And you can put a yes or a Y in the chat or do a thumbs up. Just want to get a sense for how many of you knew about us before Beach Watch. Oh, look, we're getting some answers here. This is great. Oh, I love to hear it. The first time I gave a Beach Watch presentation, we had about 10% of the room had heard about the sanctuaries. So, that's about 20 years ago. So it's we're making a little bit of noise. People are hearing about us, which is wonderful. So what do you think, since you've heard of National Marine Sanctuaries, what do you think makes National Marine Sanctuaries spectacular? So if you can put some ideas in the chat, would love to hear how you think we're spectacular. Let's see. New message. Okay, biodiversity. Yes, great answer. Any other thoughts of what makes sanctuaries spectacular?
If you want the message here, you can type it in.
Yeah, we got a lot of biodiversity, upwelling. These are all great answers. Saving wildlife, study and programs, raising awareness. So we're going to talk about all of that today, because all of these answers are part of what makes sanctuaries spectacular. So National Marine Sanctuaries were established or are established as our nation's most significant biologically diverse, or this is one answer I didn't see, historic marine areas. So sanctuaries are established, one, for their biodiversity, or and sometimes it's both, their historic value. And the very first National Marine Sanctuary was Monitor, and it was established to protect the Monitor, which was a sunken ironclad ship. So it was the precursor to the submarine, and it was built during the Civil War era. So a long time ago, they're thinking about submarines. And so it's a very significant maritime heritage resource. Well, tonight I'm going to take you on a little tour of what makes our coast spectacular. But before we go into the Greater Fair Islands and a little bit of Cordell Bank, how many sanctuaries do you think we have in U.S. waters? You can put your answers there. And as you're putting your answers in, Drew, can you go to the next slide? All right, do you have any answers? No guesses? How many sanctuaries? Let's see, 25. Ooh, that'd be nice. A little high. 23, still a little high. 20, still high. 14, you are the closest, Allie, with 14. We have 15 national marine sanctuaries and 2 marine national monuments, Papahanaumokuakea and Rose Atoll. They are both in the South Pacific or Pacific. Papahanaumokuakea is also known as the Northwestern Hawaiian Islands National Marine Monument, and it extends from close to the equator all the way up to temperate waters. So it's tropical to temperate waters. And it is our largest, actually, I think Rose Atoll now is even larger than Papanemoukokea Marine Monument. And it's right now in the process of being designated a sanctuary. We also have, as you can see on the map, a couple of areas around the United States are in the process of designation. So we're getting closer to that 20 number, whereas the Chumash Heritage National Marine Sanctuary is currently in the designation process, as well as Lake Erie and Hudson. And Lake Erie and Hudson are both maritime heritage marine sanctuaries. So, looking at this map, do you notice where there's a concentration of marine sanctuaries? There seems to be an area where we see them clumped together. Does everyone see that area? And it's right here where we are. It's the California National Marine Sanctuaries. We happen to have a lot of sanctuaries, yes, on the West Coast. If we can go to the next slide. And why do we have so many sanctuaries on the West Coast? It is because of those answers you gave me. It is upwelling, and that upwelling which feeds biodiversity. So just a little bit of facts about the sanctuary here and Beach Watch program is that our sanctuary office manages a little over 2 sanctuaries. We manage the Greater Fairlawns National Marine Sanctuary, which extends from Manchester Beach in Mendocino County down to Rocky Point in Marin County. We also manage the Cordell Bank National Marine Sanctuary, which is just offshore Point Reyes and Bodega Head. And then we manage the northern portion of the Monterey Sanctuary. So from Rocky Point in Marin County, many people don't realize that Marin County is actually in the Monterey National Marine Sanctuary, extending all the way down to Santa Cruz on Nuevo, Santa Cruz County. And so Beach Watch covers this whole range of coastal areas, which the entire area of the sanctuary is almost 6,000 square miles. So it's one of the largest marine protected areas managed by one unit in the National Marine Sanctuary Program. So it's a pretty big unit. And why does this one site manage this unit? Let's go to the next slide. Because it is an ecological unit. It was the purpose of these sanctuaries is to conserve the biologically diverse and globally significant ocean environment off the north central California coast. It is a really special environment. The scientists we work with have published articles how this is one of the most biologically rich, if not the most biologically rich upwelling zone in the world. It just happens to be next to a very highly populated area as well. So it gives us opportunities and challenges. So we'll talk about both of those tonight. Let's get to the next slide. So I was asking you, what makes sanctuaries spectacular? Well, what makes this area globally significant? And I saw that answer earlier. Does someone want to shout it out again? You can just shout it out or type it in the chat. What is it? What makes it upwelling? That is right. It is upwelling. The Greater Fairlawns Upwelling Cell, it has now been named its own cell. That was done by Bodega Marine Lab. Is one of the most productive upwelling cells in the world. So this upwelling area is the California Current, and within this upwelling area, it's the Greater Fairlawns cell that is the most productive within the current. One of the reasons it's named Greater Fairlawns is because Fairlawns or Farallones means sea stack. And this area of the coast, as you travel up, you'll see lots of sea stacks. So the Greater Fairlawns were named by the Spanish as sea stacks as they were traveling along the coast. And then, just up and down the coast, you'll see that we have a lot of them extending through Sonoma County up into Mendocino County, these sea stacks. And that's how we get our name, the Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary. Well, this upwelling zone or cell originates off Point Arena. And it's at Point Arena, these upwelled water come together at Point Arena. And one of them shoots to the north, and the other one shoots to the south. And it's this Greater Farallones upwelling cell, which when the strong winds come off Point Arena and push the ocean water offshore, and cold, deep, nutrient-rich water replaces the nearshore surface water. This circulation nutrients provides the foundation for a rich and thriving ecosystem that ranges from plankton to apex predators. So, I said it goes north, but it actually doesn't go north. It goes offshore. So that was kind of incorrect of me characterizing it as north above Point Arena. It just goes offshore where it comes down the shore at Point Arena into the sanctuary. Well, the nutrients that are brought to the surface during upwelling events at Point Arena are carried south into the into the Cordell Bank and the rest of the Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary by wind-driven currents. And these nutrients fuel an incredibly productive ecosystem that's ecologically connected. And this nutrient-rich water promotes a thriving nearshore environment. So let's go to the next slide. So I love this slide because it's this visual of what it looks like underneath the water. And it also helps explain the upwelling and these nutrients. So the nutrients are coming from the deep ocean. So it's coming from this dark blue we see. It's, off the continental shelf, and the water gets upwelled. It's the largest animal migration on Earth is the migration of krill that happens at night, that comes up in this deep ocean water to the surface. And when the nutrients are at the surface in that shallower water and there's sun, the plankton, the phytoplankton bloom. So you can think of it like on land as the plants are blooming. And so it's this phytoplankton is blooming with the sun and the nutrients that are fertilizing the water. And with all this plankton, then there's the zooplankton. Let's go to the next slide. So zooplankton are like our insects. They are then feeding on all the phytoplankton that are there. And so we have this really rich krill that are feeding on the phytoplankton. So when the spring and summer sun penetrate that cold, nutrient-rich water, it sets off this explosion of life. And we get the phytoplankton blooms, the zooplankton, which feed the zooplankton blooms, which let's go to the next slide, which then feed our seabirds and mammals. So it's feeding our humpback whales, which come to the sanctuary. We are a destination feeding ground for endangered and threatened blue and humpback whales, which are just scooping up the water that's full of this prey. Next slide. It also feeds the seabirds, and it feeds the seabirds' prey. And so because of this rich, plankton feeding juvenile fish, which are feeding seabirds, we have one of the largest, well, actually we do, not one of, we have the largest feeding concentration of seabirds in the contiguous United States. So outside of Alaska, we have it here, right here along our coast. And a large concentration of those breeding seabirds are on the Farallon Islands and then on the coastal rocks and bluffs near shore. Let's go to the next slide. So in addition to the seabirds, it feeds pinnipeds, and we have 6 different pinniped populations that are dependent on the food that's generated here in the sanctuary. The pinnipeds we have include the elephant seal, which were once thought to be extinct. We have records from the Farallon Islands where it's recorded that they've killed the very last elephant seal. But luckily, they continued in Mexico, and they are one of our Marine Mammal Act success stories and have come back and repopulated the Farallon Islands as well as the coast of California. We have harbor seals. 20% of California's harbor seal population is in the sanctuary. We have stellar sea lions, which have they've been hit particularly hard. Their population numbers aren't as strong as we'd like to see them, but they're majestic animals that got their name from their roar that they do when they're on land. We have California sea lions, another success story from the Marine Mammal Act, and the northern fur seals, again, another success story. They were extirpated from the Farallon Islands for over 100 years, but now we have a thriving population of breeding fur seals, northern fur seals on the island. And we also do get Guadalupe fur seals. They're a rare sighting in the sanctuary, but we do have them. Next slide. Well, all this rich pinniped environment feeds our white sharks. The Farallons are known for white sharks because we have one of the largest concentration of adult and subadult white shark populations in the world. The last I heard is that we have the largest population of adult white sharks in the world, but we know that there's also a lot of white sharks in South Africa, and maybe they haven't counted. We just don't know. And maybe they haven't had the same research that we've had invested in or the same ability. But we have a very large and also thriving white shark population in the sanctuary. Let's go to the next slide. Well, all this food not only feeds the animals that live here year-round, but also feed wildlife that migrate here, that come specifically to the Farallon Sanctuary to feed. And some of those species are the sooty shearwaters, which come all the way from New Zealand to feed. The albatross, Laysan albatross, which does a 3,000-mile trip from Hawaii to Cordell Bank and Greater Farallons to feed, and then bring that food back to their chicks in Midway Atoll, Midway Island. And then we also have leatherback sea turtles, which breed in Indonesia, but then come back here to feed on gelatinous animals such as jellies in the sanctuary. So this is a destination feeding ground also for leatherback sea turtles. So it's just as many of us here, I'm one of those foodie people that love the food in Northern California. So does our wildlife offshore. The weather we have, the oceanographic conditions provide a perfect environment for food offshore as well as growing food on land. And we're really lucky to live in this upwelling cell area. So going to the next slide. So all the upwelling system and this nutrient-rich waters supports a diversity of habitats. And we're still continuing to learn about the habitats in the sanctuary. And one of those habitats are deep sea coral and sponge communities. I think every time we have been out there doing exploration, we have discovered a new species in the sanctuary. That's how new this information is and what we're learning. We have this beautiful, diverse deep sea coral and sponge community that's sprinkled throughout the sanctuary. Next slide. Once the sanctuary expanded in 2015, we also then gained a new type of habitat, kelp forests, in particular bull kelp forests. And these have been referred to as the sequoias of the sea. They grow very fast, and then they support a kelp forest is an ecosystem onto its own. They support fish, they support marine mammals that live and feed, invertebrates. And this habitat has been unfortunately affected with the warm water events that we have seen in the last 10 years off our coast due to changing ocean conditions from climate change. Let's go to the next slide. Other types of habitats we have in the sanctuary, eelgrass beds. They're an unsung hero. Many people don't realize or understand that we have grass. This is a plant. It's not an algae. We have grass growing in the sanctuary that flowers. It's a flowering grass. And eelgrass beds are incredibly productive. They are home to a rich biodiversity of animals, in particular invertebrates, and support, again, fish and birds. And we have these habitats. We have both seagrasses offshore and eelgrass in our protected bays and lagoons. Next slide. And then we have our rocky intertidal and subtidal communities. And, I have purple urchins in here. And purple urchins are good. They're part of our ecosystem. It's just their balance is the balance between the urchins and the kelp is not what it has been in the past that sustains a healthy ecosystem. It's out of balance. So we're working on how do we help restore that balance during this changing ocean conditions. But we have a vibrant intertidal community as well. Next slide. In addition to our offshore habitats, we have nearshore habitats that the sanctuary protects. We protect sandy beaches, so up to the mean high water mark is the sanctuary. We protect lagoons and estuaries and mud flats. And these, in particular, lagoons, estuaries, and mud flats, as well as deep ocean muddy bottom habitats, are really important carbon storage habitats. These systems sequester and store carbon, more carbon than is stored and sequestered on land. So it's really important we protect these habitats. Okay, let's go to our next slide. Now I'm going to transition into what does the sanctuary do? You got to hear a little bit about what is the sanctuary. The sanctuary is animals, it's habitats. Our primary purpose of the National Marine Sanctuary Act is resource protection, and it's to support these natural resources and maritime heritage resources. And then how do we do that? So that's our mandate, is to protect these resources and then to allow sustainable use, that people can go out. We can have businesses in the sanctuary. So there can be fishing. We can have transportation like shipping. We can have recreation, boating, diving in a sanctuary, but it has to be done in a sustainable manner, in a way in which the resources are still protected. So that's a big ask of us, to protect and to allow use and make sure it's sustainable. And how we do that is through regulations, through conservation science. So studying and understanding what's in the sanctuary, how the sanctuary functions, and then threats to the sanctuary, and then how do we address those threats through resource protection. And then how do we educate people about the importance of the sanctuary, how to be stewards, and how to engage in its protection. And then lastly, we have, all the behind the scenes administration operations, making everything happen. And there you can see on the slide, I just wrote, it's a summary of what the purposes of the act mandate us to do. So this is we're legally bound to do these activities. So let's go to the next slide. So I'm going to go over regulations. I'll go over them really quickly. If you want to get more in depth and you're really interested in that part of it, it's all online, or you can go to our website. You can see the regulations and learn more about it. But what we consider our penultimate regulation in sanctuaries is the prohibition on oil, gas, and mineral development. So in particular, for the Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary, this was one of the main reasons the sanctuary was established in 1981. It was the sanctuary became a sanctuary through a grassroots effort. It was a group of concerned citizens in the San Francisco Bay Area that came together and approached Congress and the administration to protect this area from oil and gas drilling. Because we have oil and gas deposits offshore here. And there were plans to build what you're looking at right now, these offshore platforms right off our coast. And there'd just been the Santa Barbara oil spill. We have endangered and threatened marine mammals and seabirds, and we have one of the largest concentration of marine mammals because as I mentioned, we're destination feeding ground for endangered and threatened humpback whales, endangered blue whales, fin whales, as well as other animals. So oil spill, and we have oil spills, and we had oil spills here. And the two don't mix. Marine mammals, oil spills and seabirds, they don't mix. And successfully, we became a sanctuary. So let's go to the next slide. Our next regulation is discharges from outside the sanctuary to enter the sanctuary. So if something is discharged outside the sanctuary, then enters the sanctuary, as you can see in this photo here. This is oil that is from Costco Busan that was spilled in the bay that then entered the sanctuary and harmed sanctuary resources. And through that regulation, we were able to hold the Pilot Association, the shipping company, responsible for restoring the resources that had been damaged. And a lot of it has to do with Beach Watch, which I'm going to talk about later. Okay, next slide. Another regulation we have is discharge other than from a cruise ship. So basically, the bottom line, it's prohibited to discharge into the sanctuary. There's a couple of exceptions which are listed here for basically clean discharge. But overall, you can't discharge in the sanctuary. Next slide. Cruise ships in particular have more stringent restrictions than other vessels because they're floating cities, because the discharge from a cruise ship has the potential to be more damaging than a discharge from a pleasure craft, a personal boat, a sailboat. So there's more restricted prohibitions on a cruise ship. Next slide. Well, also, we have regulations that manage certain vessel operations. One of those, which as a Beach Watch volunteer, you have a high likelihood of seeing, and that's a grounded or abandoned vessel on your beach. And this is prohibited. You cannot leave a vessel on the beach. And unfortunately, this is something that happens too often in the sanctuary. We respond to an incident sometimes up to once a month. And we're particularly concerned when a vessel comes ashore, grounds on rocky shore habitat, because once that habitat is damaged, it's gone forever. We've lost that rocky habitat. So it's a concern to the sanctuary. And then if there's marine debris, derelict fishing gear, oil that's then deposited on the beach, in the water, that's all concerns to the sanctuary wildlife. Next slide. So construction on and alteration to submerged lands is also a prohibition. People can't build in the sanctuary. Again, our regulations, our primary purpose is resource protection. So to keep those habitats, such as eelgrass habitat in Tomales Bay, intact and healthy. So it's prohibited to construct on the seabed. We do have permits, which I'll get to in a few moments. Next one, wildlife disturbance. It's also prohibited to disturb wildlife in the sanctuary. And this is a map that shows our special wildlife protection zones. And these are areas in where we have, in particular, high concentrations of wildlife for either seabird breeding or seal pinniped rookeries, in which we overlay more protective regulations for these concentrated areas. And you can see the Beach Watch dots also on this map. And Beach Watch is instrumental in and actually helping us identify these wildlife hotspots, identifying potential threats to the wildlife that we then use to inform what regulations we put in place to further protect the wildlife. Let's go to the next slide. Motorized personal watercraft is prohibited from Bodega Head south. You can't use a motorized personal watercraft unless it's for emergency response efforts. North of Bodega Head, we have we manage how motorized personal watercraft is used, but it is allowed. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So now you've heard about our regulations. So that's generally the prohibitions within the sanctuary. And you actually play a very important role in helping us understand what regulations are needed, understanding what enforcement is needed, understanding what education outreach is needed. We get a lot of that information from your surveys. That's one reason we're so excited that you have chosen to join us with the Beach Watch program. So a very important component of the sanctuary is conservation science. And our goal for conservation science is to deepen our understanding of the sanctuary. And we have multiple programs or projects that help us increase that understanding, starting at the shoreline, such as the Beach Watch program, our Rocky Intertidal, and we have both staff Rocky Intertidal programs, as well as we have a student intertidal program that helps us understand what's happening along the shore. We have offshore science that occurs as well, in which there's marine mammal and seabird observations, oceanography, through our access cruises. And we have acoustic buoy, so we're listening to the sound in the sanctuary. And then we do characterization exploratory cruises as well. And we look at, we're identifying for the first time, where's our deep sea coral and sponge habitat? Doing some monitoring in Cordell Bank. What is the status of that deep sea coral and sponge habitat? Is it healthy? Are there threats? We have eelgrass monitoring. We have a passive restoration program for eelgrass. Is the eelgrass coming back? And the answer is yes, which is good. So we're monitoring eelgrass, and then we're just learning about the sanctuary. We're out there with ROVs, characterizing it, looking at it for the first time, mapping the sanctuary, looking for historic resources where there's significant sunken vessels. And where there are sunken vessels that could be of a threat to the sanctuary. So these are the types of science projects we have. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. We use conservation science to inform resource protection, to identify what are the threats and are we being effective with our management measures we're putting in place. So an example, some of those are moorings in Tomales Bay. So this is something we have permitted, the allow moorings, so that they can happen outside of eelgrass. And you can see in this picture, when there's a mooring in eelgrass, we get what we call crop circles. It removes the eelgrass from that area. So we have resource protection programs to allow mooring, but outside eelgrass. We have we work with the Greater Farallones Association. They're leading efforts to cull urchins and plant kelp, so restoring the kelp forest. So we do restoration in the sanctuary. We're also working with Greater Farallones Association to restore our sandy shoreline wetland habitat. Right now, in particular, we're working in Bolinas Lagoon, in the south end of Bolinas Lagoon, to restore functional wetlands, sandy shore habitat through that partnership with the association. We had a working group and a Sanctuary Advisory Council recommendations on how we can restore and bring back native oysters to Tomales Bay. We've also published a restoration plan on how we can plant coral. This is brand new. You can plant deep sea coral, and this is an example of what they have. They're experimenting with in Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary to restore coral populations that have been damaged. And then we also have seabird restoration programs working with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on doing behavioral change programs, changing behavior around seabird populations to help restore the population so that the birds come back to their nesting and roosting sites. All right, let's go to the next slide. So also for resource protection, like I mentioned, we issue permits. So we can allow prohibited activities as long as they do not harm the sanctuary. So we can allow mooring in the sanctuary in areas that it's not going to harm the sanctuary. And so we've come up with methods that are allowable that won't damage the sanctuary. So that we allow research projects that do a prohibited activity. Maybe they're installing equipment in the sanctuary. So they're putting something on the seafloor, but it's in a way in which it's not damaging the sanctuary. It's going to have a benefit. We do, like I mentioned, behavioral change programs. We work with different user groups such as pilots, commercial fishermen, kayakers, recreational boaters on how not to disturb wildlife. We work with enforcement agencies, the U.S. Coast Guard and NOAA Office of Law Enforcement to assist them with enforcing sanctuary regulations. And then this picture on the lower left, this is where we work a lot of times with you, Beach Watch. It's when there's oil on the beach. Oftentimes, you will be the very first person to know there's oil on the beach and notify us. And from that, then we work to respond to that oil, to work with the different response agencies to clean it, to stop it, and to restore the habitats that have been damaged by the oil. Oh, and I should also mention on those top two, the behavioral change, in your beach watch surveys, you do record if you see pilots flying low and you see disturbances, you do record those, and that helps us understand if we need to do outreach and education. Another resource protection project we're doing, and this is based on our offshore science, is we have a vessel speed reduction program. It's voluntary. It's throughout the entire sanctuary, and it's from May 1st to December 15th. We're hoping to extend the season based on science data, so we're collecting that data. The vessels, 300 gross registered tons or larger. So basically, it's the commercial vessels, the cruise ships, the container ships, the tugs, the tankers have to travel 10 knots or less because that significantly reduces the risk of a lethal ship strike to a whale. And then we also have programs, a project to work on sediment and how do we manage sediment in our sanctuary? Because sediment, we actually have a new slogan, save the sediment. Sediment, sand in particular, is our second most valuable resource on the planet. Second most used resource after water. Many people don't realize it. Next slide. So all of this together also helps inform our climate actions. Climate change is our biggest threat to the sanctuary, both Cordell Bank and Greater Farallones. And how do we address climate? One is we reduce other stressors, such as slowing ships down. And we look at how can we assist species and habitats to adapt and be more resilient. And so we have a robust climate program that's based on the information that's been collected, based on the information you will be collected on Beach Watch, based on our conservation science program, and based on NOAA data. Okay, next slide. And this brings us to education engagement. And our goal is to increase and broaden support for ocean conservation using sanctuaries as that classroom. And so we have multiple ways in which we reach out to classes, or not to classes, to people, engage communities. One of the ways is our Sanctuary Advisory Council, and I hope that you have some opportunity to attend an advisory council, maybe even apply to be a member. And this is a community group ranging from members of the public, to academia, to educators, to government officials, to maritime businesses, advising the sanctuary on how we can best protect the sanctuary. We also have public programs, so ways in which the public can learn more about the sanctuary. And it ranges through, we call it K to Gray. All ages are invited to come learn about the sanctuary. So I hope you join us on some of these programs. They're a lot of fun. I'm really impressed with how the education team has made plankton into planktonica. You can have a nighttime learning about plankton and enjoying yourself. Who would have ever thought? We have school programs. We bring school kids out to our offices, get them on the beach. We also go into classrooms. We have videos. If you haven't checked it out, go on YouTube, look at Cordell Bank 360, and you can be submerged in Cordell Bank National Marine Sanctuary. It's fantastic. Probably the only way many of us will ever actually get into Cordell Bank. And you get a little snapshot there on the left. It's amazing. We have signs and we have exhibits throughout the sanctuary. Okay, I am almost done, almost about to wrap up. So how can you get engaged beyond Beach Watch? We have our management plan. It is part of the Act. Every 5 years, we're required to review our management plan. Every 10 years, we do an in-depth review of our management plan. So that is, what should the sanctuary do over the next 10 years? And you are part of informing that. We go through scoping. This is going to start in the fall of 2024. We'll have scoping meetings, which you can attend and give us your input. We'll break out into small groups and you tell us, what do you think the sanctuary should be working on to protect? Our primary, what we're supposed to do is resource protection. What can we do to further protect these resources? You can submit it in writing. You can provide it orally. You can come to advisory council meeting. There's multiple ways for you to give us that information. Then we'll be developing a draft management plan, a draft environmental impact statement or environmental assessment, and a proposed rule. That proposed rules are regulations. We'll develop that. We will then send that out for the public to review and host public hearings, which again, love to hear from you. We want to hear from you. Did we get it right? Is anything missing? So commenting on those plans, on the regulations, on our environmental assessment, through the public hearing process, our advisory council, submitting in writing. And then lastly, we'll publish a final plan, a final environmental review document, and any new regulations should we choose or should they be necessary. So that's coming up this year. It doesn't happen very often, once every 10 years. So wanted to alert you now and hope you get engaged with it. So now I'm going to end with the last slide. Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell you to do the next slide. Here's the boring slide of all the words that you can see what I just said on the management plan review process. So it's there, you have it, you can read it at your leisure. And let's move on to the last slide. Save spectacular. So in ending, I want to hear what you think now that you've heard about the sanctuary and how we use Beach Watch data. How do you think you can, through working on Beach Watch, help save spectacular? So if you want to just go ahead, put it in the chat, you can go off mute, raise your hand. Just really interested in hearing your ideas now that you've heard this, how you're part of saving spectacular. Okay, it's starting to come in on the chat. Let's see, did I lose my chat? I think I just lost my chat.
If I may be so bold.
Yes, please.
I think that there's so many opportunities that you've just talked about. It's almost mind-boggling. I've been immersed in everything sanctuary tonight, and I thank you for that. It's looking forward to being hands-on with it, I think. Oh, I know so. Thank you.
Thank you, because really, we can't do it without you. You are our eyes and ears. We cannot be on all those beaches out there every 2 weeks. So, I thank you. I'm very grateful for your interest in the program.
So I see some great comments in the chat. I see David Berman said noticing.
Yes, noticing what's going out there, letting us know, putting it on those survey forms, because we read every single one of those survey forms.
So the survey and the data that we collect, there's so much of the data that our current and past volunteers contributed to the current draft condition report of the Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary. The data, we package it up and give it to our managers at the sanctuary to help answer the questions that they need.
That's exactly it. You got it. I'm so happy that you know that we are using your information. So is my dog Lula. She's happy too. She let you know.
See, documenting changes from baseline by watching Beach Watch over time and across seasons. See something, say something, evidence gathering, recording accurate data. Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Yes, thank you. And that is so correct. We need that accurate data because, we use sometimes this as evidence. So it's really important that you focus on, getting it as accurate as you can be.
Well, thank you so much, Maria. It's always inspiring to us who have heard this a few times and get into the weeds and particular corners of what you just presented to enjoy the whole picture. And it's daunting and exciting. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us to kick off training today. And I believe, Maria, you are going to join us for our last day of training out at the beach.
I'll get to meet you in person, all of you in person. So excited to actually get to do a meet and greet and be there to celebrate your graduation from the class. So thank you, everyone. I want to do a special thank you to the Beach Watch team also. They are awesome. You're going to enjoy working with them. They're so much fun and have so much information. They're a great resource and do an excellent job. So welcome aboard, everyone. And thank you for joining the team.
Thank you, Maria. Have a good night. All right, to everyone, I think we're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break. Thanks for sitting tight and being engaged listeners. Let's say we come back just about at 7:30. Go stretch your legs, have a cup of tea, and we will see you back soon. All right, thank you, Maria.
I see everybody's slowly returning. Thank you. Put your cameras on just so that we know that you're back. You. That's a really great presentation. Every time I hear that from kids, it's like I always learn it. I've been working here for over 30 years and I always learn a little bit something new from her presentations.
And it's amazing how we've grown too, how much more we do and how much, more square footage we cover.
Yeah.
Couple of them back.
But I love how even virtually she was able to like get some interaction going with folks, get some feedback.
All right. Okay. I think Kirsten is up next and she's going to talk to you about beginning Beach Watch. Here it is.
Okay.
All right.
I think everybody's back. Zez, Kelly, Coleman, and Donna. I don't think they've had their cameras on. I think everybody's back.
Okay, great. Just a heads up that I won't be able to see the chat, and so I will try and give pauses, and any of the staff can interject if a comment or question comes up.
Sure.
So as we embark on this training together, we noticed last time we did this hybrid format, the first time people were a little more reserved and we don't know each other yet. And we look forward to getting to know you more in the field and having more kind of team building. And the people that you meet in your training will give you breaks when you're sick covering your survey, or give you a break so that you can go travel. They will become good friends and you'll meet folks from other training classes as well over time at events. And so we look forward to getting to know you more and you getting to know us. We thank you for being prompt in joining the class today and coming back. We really thank you for your time and we want to respect your time. So we try to get done at the time we say on the schedule or before. So tonight we may be able to get off a little bit early. We'll do that. We really we'll try and keep us to task. So I just want to give you that heads up. I'm going to go through a few bits and pieces tonight, all kind of leading up to getting into the meat of the Beach Watch protocols and the information that you are going to need to conduct surveys with integrity, high quality data that can be used by the sanctuary in all the ways that you just learned about. So in this, we'll talk about why we do what we do, safety, some of the things to expect during training, the resources that you're going to be using, and then a little bit about getting ready for Saturday.
And also, Kirsten, or maybe Drew, if you can address how people can revisit some of the information.
Yep, that's
coming later. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. So we talked a little bit about this at orientation, but to get our head back in the game, the goals of Beach Watch, why we collect data. So we are able to provide Maria and other managers along the coastline baseline data on live and dead birds and marine mammals. We're assisting in early detection of natural and human-induced events. We're developing a network of surveyors who can respond during an oil spill. And we are educated, we educate the public, you are the public as community science members, and encouraging stewardship within our communities. Okay, can anyone tell me what species that is on the right? Do not worry if you don't know what it is yet, but if anyone does. And I'll point out this is a very old picture, and this person is breaking one of our cardinal safety rules. They're not wearing gloves. So anyone in the chat have any idea what this little bird is?
Common murre.
It is close. It is in that
Yeah,
family.
right, 'cause it
Anyone
has
else?
There's that white. That's not right.
The alcid, the group of birds called alcids have that black and white, those white stripes down the back. This is an adult in winter plumage. Any guesses?
So Kirsten, we have
Murre
guesses
is,
of myrrh, merlin, and guillemot.
Merlet. This is a marbled merlet
Murre, yeah.
in winter plumage. This is an adult, so a really special bird, and one we don't like to see on the beach, but you know,
Because it has this and this.
yeah. So we'll talk more about that. The group of smallish black and white birds called alcids that we will get to know very well on our surveys.
Now you have to. Yeah.
So beach watch data. Now I need to move my pictures here so I can see. Beach watch data is used by federal, state, and county land managers and researchers in their reporting and assessment of resource protection activities, including natural resource damage assessment activities, or NERDA, as some people call it, that follows oil spills. Beach watch baseline data has been used to help secure almost $50 million in restoration funds over the course of 4 major oil spills in the greater San Francisco area. Also an ecosystem health assessment, looking at long-term trend analyses, and all of the land managers along the coast are required to do kind of decadal, long-term assessments or condition reports, and our data has been used in all of those along this coastline. Identifying unusual mortality events and their linkages to oceanographic perturbations. We have a number of papers regarding that are all on our website. Graduate students have used this data, and members of the public, authors doing field guides, and more. So beach watch data is used in so many ways, and you all make that possible. So it's not just a walk on the beach. We're going to make you work and you're going to have to know what you're doing. And we will help you every step of the way through this process. We will cover materials, we'll present things, and then we will do activities to solidify that knowledge. We will practice, we will learn more things, we will solidify that knowledge. So it's a lot of information, and we will cover it all in a way that helps support learning and success. So on the beach, we are looking at a lot of different aspects of wildlife. So we're looking at live wildlife counts. We're looking at dead wildlife identification, counts, and demographics. Oiled, live, and dead wildlife documentation and evidence collection. Band and tag information from both live and dead wildlife, and entanglement documentation. Then for human activities, we are documenting consumptive activities and recreational activities. So consumptive or take activities and non-consumptive or recreational. So once we launch you onto the beach, and also during training, field safety is number one. Your safety in the field, collecting this really important information, is number one. And I really don't want to find out that you are the people on the left on the bluff. This is your safety is important. And this is, we need to look at a lot of different information to make good choices about being in the field. So be smart, consult tide charts on every survey. Also your coastal weather reports. So a lot of our survey beaches require a low tide to safely access that site. So know your beach and know that the changes in the seasons make it change things a lot. So sometimes over the course of the winter, a beach could drop 5 feet, losing sand off the beach. And so high tides and low tides are going to look different for the survey site that you are assigned. And so make really good decisions. Use the tide charts. If you don't know how to use a tide chart, we will work with you to make sure that you can understand them. There are a lot of great apps online that can help tell you the closest tide station to where you presently are, or you can look up a site that's close to your beach to help plan. So there are a lot, there's Tides and Currents, which is a NOAA tool, tells you the highs and lows, the times, and the magnitude of those highs and lows to help. So when you are assigned a beach, some of those beaches on your 1-page map and access information document, it will say this site needs to be done at a low tide. And that is not just for making it easier to walk, that is for safety, and also quality of data collection. So get to know your apps. You can look up apps to be on your phone. That seems to be easier than the old tide books, but it's up to you choosing that. There are a lot of great coastal weather sources. Please look at them every time you go in the field. Part of it is for your comfort, mostly it's for safety, and thirdly, we want to get data. And sometimes people will look at a weather report and they see a raindrop on the day and they say, oh, I'm not going to go do my survey today. When if you look at an hourly weather report, it shows clear from 8 in the morning until 11 in the morning and then rain. So perfect morning to go get your survey done. So do use those hourly. Also sign up for weather alerts for the region. If you live inland, sign up for weather alerts from your favorite weather service for this area that your survey is. We also do send out emails about big weather events coming in. So look for those, but also be smart and cover yourself by double checking all the sources that are out there. When we're on the beach, we ask that you never turn your back on the ocean. We're going to be giving you a lot of new information and you're going to be grappling with all of that. You're shuffling paperwork, you've got binoculars, all these things that may be new to you, juggling these things. But don't stand there with your back to the ocean. If you see a trainee, a fellow classmate standing there not paying attention, do let them know, and we'll do the same. Always, think of the safety of the whole group, but move yourself higher up on the beach, face the ocean, and really be aware. If you find dead near the waterline and it's time for you to document it, take that and move it higher up onto the beach so that you can put it down, open up your field guides and that kind of thing to do your documentation. When traveling long distances along the beach, just try and be a little bit on the higher side, on the drier side, so that if larger waves roll in periodically, you're going to be closer to safe ground. And always use your discretion at the beach. If conditions change, stop and leave the beach at any point in time. That is always more important than completing your survey. Even a partial survey is really important for us. And be a team player. If you're out there with with one other person or two other people, look out for your teammates, stick together. Making sure that everyone safely gets off the beach is much more important than being able to fully complete a survey. You can always tell us what % of the survey you completed. We'll talk about that. But sticking together, and it's best for the entire team to be able to use each other as resources. Let someone know where you're going and when you're going to return. I've always had a system in my house that I have a chalkboard, and I write a number. Since I might go out to any of the beaches with you all at any point in time, I write a number, 114. That's a beach number from Abbott's to Kehoe and Point Reyes. I'll put the number and the time I expect to return on the board as a communication to the people in my household. So that's a little thing that I do. But when you have your beach, make sure to share with someone where you're going and when you expect to return. PPE, or personal protection equipment, is really important. Zoonotic diseases exist. Birds and mammals carry things that we can catch, or our furry friends, dogs and cats, can catch off of our gear. So we always wear gloves when handling wildlife, and protect yourself. When handling dead or oil specimens, we'll teach you how to do each of those things appropriately. We're currently implementing enhanced safety protocols due to the outbreak of the highly pathogenic avian influenza, HPAI. So we are currently monitoring the current best practices for doing wildlife work around these influenzas, these avian flus. So we are currently requiring gloves and N95 masks while handling dead birds. And so we'll talk about that as well, about trying to keep your gear, clean and not share anything with yourself or anyone in your household. So be prepared for coastal weather and terrain. Cold and heat stress can happen year round. It can be uncomfortable, if not deadly. So be prepared for all weather, wind, wet, and heat year round. Bring food and water. Even if you think it's going to be a short survey, be prepared for a twisted ankle. Wear sturdy shoes and be prepared for varied terrain. So safety first, be prepared and be smart to avoid dangerous situations. Use your 5-day survey window, we will talk about that more, to help you avoid dangerous weather and still get your survey done. And lastly, and most importantly, don't be a hero. So your survey window, which we just mentioned, if you use it wisely, you will be able to get your surveys done and avoid bad weather or illness or vacations. So each designated team of however many surveyors will be assigned a beach, and your survey will occur basically every 28 days or 13 times a year. Your team selects a target date of the week, and you have a 2-day window on either side of that date to complete your window. So if your team chooses Wednesday as the target date, and it's a consensus thing, nobody's going to force you to do a day that you can't do. If your team chooses Wednesday, you will have from Monday to Friday to complete your survey. And conversely, if you choose Saturday, you have from Thursday to Monday to complete your survey. So if you're not able to complete a survey, it's your responsibility to find a replacement. So get to know the people in this class, and we ask you to contact 3 fellow volunteers. So they may be people from this class, they may be people from your alternate team who you will get to know by the end of this class. And if you've not had any luck after reaching out to try and find 3 people, then you can ask staff for assistance. I should say at that point, we ask you to send out an email to our listserv. And if at that point, if you haven't gotten anyone, then you can ask staff for assistance. So in Beach Watch, we have a lot of paperwork, our data sheets, and through the course of training, you will know the ins and outs of all of these. You will be well trained and feel confident in the completion of these forms and in the protocols that we use to complete them. We provide a lot of resources like code cheat sheets that help you, that you know what information goes in what fields. It's going to take some practice, but we'll go through all of that in training. So we have a number of pages of forms that we'll be completing. So the first one includes the beach, the weather, volunteer information, who collected the data, how long it took them to collect the data, what time of day it was collected, what tide, what dead vertebrates were found, what things were counted on earlier surveys, but were not new on this survey, and also RAC. The second form will be the live survey, so live counts and any banded individuals that were live. Then the third form, or third and fourth forms, are human activities. And so those are beach-based, water-based, and boat-based activities are all documented. And then we have our photo log. So we'll be taking photographs throughout the survey, documenting the things that we see to help with the verification process of all of the data. So you'll complete a photo log. So we'll teach you how to do all of these things. There are a couple additional pages that you may complete if there's additional observations or information to share. So that would be oil documentation. You'll only submit that form if you have oil. And then comments that you can add, extra information on anything that you see. So like Maria said, if a plane was observed flying very low and just causing wildlife disturbance, you'd write the N number down if you're able to see that on the plane, some estimation of the height of the plane. So you could say, well, the bluff that I was standing next to is 100 feet tall, and this plane was only half again higher than that. So I believe it was flying 150 feet and it caused this. So any additional information would go there. So when you're completing these forms, we ask that you always write in pencil. We will give you a pencil. We ask you to write legibly. You're going to have to do your own on that. Just everyone do your best in terms of readability. We need to be able to understand what is written. And we ask that you fill out all the sheets completely. That is all of the fields on all of the sheets completely. So we'll talk about that more in training. We ask that you enter the data online within 3 days of completion. So as Drew mentioned in orientation, it's great that you go out and collect the data. It's great that you had the day on the beach, but we need the data back so that we can inform managers as to what is happening along this coastline. We ask that you, okay, that's a little out of date. We ask that you take photographs of all of your data sheets and then mail in or hand deliver your originals to the office within 1 week so that we can start doing quality control and finalizing the data. Then canceled surveys. When canceled surveys happen, and please try and do all of your surveys or get them covered, but occasionally something will happen. And I'll give you an example. We've had outrageously horrible air quality or closed areas due to evacuations because of fires. So there's no getting around that. That happens, we are canceling a survey. It may be that you get sick during your survey window. Say you're planning to do your survey on the second to last day, and on the target day, you get sick and you have 2 days to figure out getting coverage and you aren't able to do that. Well, that will be a canceled survey. So we try and minimize them, but they happen. And when we do that, we ask that you submit a sheet, the first page of your data, as you write in canceled, and we'll show you how to do that during training. And then you mail that into us. So data integrity is everything. We put a lot of effort into training you in appropriate protocols, and we ask that you stick to those protocols. Be consistent in your data collection. Don't start changing the protocols over time. Stick to what we've taught you and build your identification skills over time. We have codes for things if you at first when you're starting to be a beach watch volunteer, you're not quite sure. I didn't get a great look at it. I'm not quite sure what species of gull that was. Maybe it was a Western, maybe it was a California. Well, we have a code. It's spelled G-U-L-L, gull. And we use that when we don't know what species of gull it was. We are asking you not to guess. Be accurate and not guess. We have codes for more broad family categories of things. But if you do a survey and you had more gulls than you had Western gulls and California gulls, herring gulls, then we ask you to go home and practice your gulls. That is a good flag to yourself. All right, I'm gonna work on my gull skills. And we host trainings every winter with Peter Pyle to build on those skills. So be accurate, never guess. So we have a lot of information to get through, but we have a system. So for the training schedule, we'll cover all of the basic protocols in the coming weeks. We'll go through them one at a time, building off each other. So rest assured, there's a method to the madness, and you will come out at the other end really feeling solid in all of the information that we've discussed. We have some field days coming up. We did ask that you hold, on a couple of our weekends, we asked that you hold both days so that we can find the best weather. This is the tail end of an El Nino and it's been damp. So what we have told you is that we would release whichever day we weren't going to use of those hold weekends as soon as possible and at the latest today. So we're telling you today that we are going to do Saturday and you will be off on Sunday. So this Saturday, we are on for Crissy Field in San Francisco. Then the next weekend, March 16th or 17th, we are going to be at Stinson Beach and a little bit of Bolinas Lagoon. So we're going to wait on the weather to see which we're going to do for that. So do know it's probably not going to be 100% dry on Saturday, but it looks good. So a little bit of drizzle, probably not for the whole time. So we will cancel any of these future dates if it is a horrendous, really dangerous situation to be on the roads, that kind of thing. But if it's just going to be a little bit damp, you know, we're beach watch. So we're going to smile through the wind and the weather and just really enjoy each other's company and this learning environment. Okay, so then Saturday, March 21st, we're going to be inside. So no cold needed for Sunday. We're going to be inside at the California Academy of Sciences. I want to flag this date because at the end of today, you'll have access to the full schedule. I'll talk about that in a minute. All of these dates, we will stick to the time bound that we describe on the schedule. However, this day, California Academy of Sciences, we will have access to after, I think we say we get off at 1:30 that day. We will have the option, you have the option of signing up for behind the scenes tours in the bird and mammal collections. It is a really cool opportunity, and you don't have to do it, but just letting you know that after 1:30, you will have free access to the Academy floor, and you will also have the opportunity to sign up for a behind the scenes tour. So just flagging that date, I would block out the whole afternoon for that one. And then,
sorry, Kirsten, to interrupt you, but that March 21st is a typo. It's the 23rd.
oh my goodness. So sorry about that, everyone.
And thank you, Allie, for catching that.
Thank you. I'm gonna need to double check some things to make sure I didn't replicate that elsewhere. So thank you. So then the last weekend, it will be a double weekend. We shortened up the end of the training and got 2 things done in a weekend because most of the Beach Watch staff are going to be getting on a big NOAA ship right after this. So we're going to have 2 days in a row, Doran Beach, Bodega Bay, and then Muir Beach, Marin County. So that's going to be a full weekend for everyone. Fingers crossed on the weather for that. And we are going to be sending around a, what's it called? A class roster that has not your address or anything like that, but has your email, your name, your email address, and the general region in which you live. If you have any reason to not want to share any of that information with us, please let us know tonight in an email to Drew. But otherwise, we will share that general information so that your classmates can reach out to you about possible carpooling. We do encourage that, absolutely. Okay, any questions so far? Sorry about that typo, my goodness. Okay, so training resources. We're almost done, everyone. We're gonna get you out early. Training resources. Number 1, on Saturday, we are gonna be handing out a hard copy Beach Watch manual that you can take notes in and other supplemental materials. So again, Saturday, that's a big part of getting that in your hands so that you will have resources to pull out in each of the virtual classes that will be coming up. We'll kind of have packets for each day. Number 2, the Beach Watch portal. You use that to sign up for orientation. And now you have a new level of access since you're a trainee. When you log in, there you will see a new section called Beach Watch Training Resource Documents. And in that, this is a screenshot from what you will now see. So there's resources and reading information on Beaufort wind, tides, lots of reading about different groups of bird families. Then all the way down at the bottom, you see training schedule. Your training schedule with details as to what we're covering in each class is now published there. You can look at that. If you catch any typos in it, please let me know. The number of things we're juggling, it happens, so bear with us. So after tomorrow, after you have let us know whether or not you have any concerns about being included on the contact list, Drew will be posting the contact list also in this location, so you can look that up and reach out to your teammates, your classmates. And thirdly, we have something called the Beach Watch Training website. This will help you. There will be a little bit of homework besides just general studying identification. There'll be a little bit of homework. We'll ask you to watch, I think it's 3 recorded videos over the course of this training. They are from like 10 to 20 minutes in length. So Drew will be sending you an email tomorrow morning with the information about how to get into that, the training website to watch those modules. And we will tell you when they are due. You can, I think, watch them at any time. So more information to come. And as we go through material and training, the resource documents in the portal will build. You will see more and more things as we go, including recordings of these classes. If you want to go back and re-listen to something, you will be able to do that as well. There will be videos included here. Okay, so I think I am going to pass it over to Drew and Kathy.
Can I say one more thing? Sorry,
Of
you
course.
guys, my nose is really caught up to me now, so now I really have a cold. It's confirmed. I wanted to say that I'm going to be emailing you, in addition to putting the contact list on the portal and the what was the other thing I'm putting on the portal? I'm sending you an email with the instructions on how to go on the Beach Watch training website. And the third thing is I'm going to be sending you DocuSign documents. It's our NOAA's volunteer agreement. It's like a formal federal form, and you need to sign it in a couple of places. You might have to answer a couple of things. And then there will also be a couple of forms that are for photo, video, and photo likenesses, giving us the permission to use any of photos that you might be in or recording these talks at a later date. So if you're not comfortable signing them, you don't have to. We just have to make special care to not get you in the photos. But those are 3 things you should look for tomorrow. I'm not promising the morning, but you will have them tomorrow. Okay, great. Thank you. I think I'm going to turn it over to Kathy for this next 2 slides, the last 2 slides, because I'm a little bit congested and I'm having trouble talking. So if you don't mind, I'm sorry. Kathy.
No, take good care, Drew.
I'll wear a mask on Saturday. I
Yeah.
promise.
We'll be outside.
Be well. All right, peeps, we're in the home stretch. What's next for us is a field day, which is scheduled for Saturday, March 9th, and class begins at 9. However, you'll probably want to get to our campus at 8:30 or 8:45 to park and access the bathrooms. Our address is 991 Marine Drive in San Francisco. Our office campus is not a hardship to spend time in. It's in a beautiful location at Crissy Field. And you can see a photo of it in this slide. We'll be in the far right building with the palm trees. There is free parking available in our lot, but there's also metered parking out on Mason Street near some of the rock climbing buildings and some of the recreational buildings across the street from us. If you arrive a little late, and we are a federal building, the door locks behind us, so you are not able to sort of open up a door and access the office. There'll be a sign on the door with a number to call. You call that number and a Beach Watch staffer will come down and open the door for you. So we'll start the class inside our wonderful office building. We'll have some coffee and tea ready and you can warm up. We'll have some party favors to share with you to start building your Beach Watch backpack. Oh, and by the way, sometimes Google Maps will not get you all the way to our door. If you plug in GFNMS Visitor Center, there is a small visitor center within our larger building that usually will get you to our door. Sometimes plugging in 991 Marine Drive does not do the job. But look for the palm trees on Crissy Beach. Is there a second slide, Kirsten? So for Saturday, please dress for all sorts of weather. It's very likely we will have drizzly, light rain. So dress in layers for breezy, chilly weather and bring your rain gear. Also bring sturdy shoes for walking on the beach that you don't mind getting a little wet. We will likely have some snacks, but if you have your favorite snacks, please bring that and a bag lunch to get you through. We will hopefully wrap up at 1 p.m. There's not a lot of cafes or convenience stores at our location. So come prepared with your favorite snacks. If you have binoculars, please bring them. And if you need to borrow a pair or would like to borrow a pair, please let us know. Drop us a quick email. If you have any favorite field guides to bring that you'd like to use for yourself or share with others, please bring those and bring a backpack. You'll be making that backpack your own, and we'll be stocking it with some of the party favors we have ready for you at the office. Anything that I've missed, Kirsten or Drew, for Saturday?
Kathy, I do have a few things. I just want to let people know that our parking lot does not hold 25 cars. So, and we do have 25 people plus the instructors. So try to carpool, take transit if you can. And then Kathy did mention metered parking across the lawn. It is a little bit tricky getting into our parking lot. Try to stay on the paved road. You will cross a running path, and then you will venture onto a paved road. So you're just going to cross directly across the running path. Don't drive along the running path. And then I just also do want to remind people that the in-classroom is on the 3rd floor. So it is 3 flights of stairs to get up there. And then Kathy, I was wondering, are we ending at 1 or 1:30 on Saturday? I had in my schedule 1:30.
I don't have the schedule in front of me. Kirsten, do you have a clarification?
I believe it's 1 o'clock for this.
Okay.
So Jan, we did talk about if people would like a little extra help in using binoculars, if they would like some tips or want to have binoculars practice. We talked about having a little post-class practice session, and which could maybe go into 1:30 if needed.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's probably
absolutely.
where it's getting the 1:30. Thank you.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of public transportation that gets you all the way down to the end of Chrissy Field, but I do know there is a bus service. I think it's letter 30, the number 30 bus, which will get you as far as the sports basement, which is along Chrissy Field. But that is the closest public transportation that I know of to our office. If anyone has clarification on that or something different, please let us know.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kathy.
Would also like to say that at the end of class on Saturday, we will be handing out the tentative beach assignments, because I know you're all curious where you may be headed. So we will get that out so we can start that process of seeing if they're a good fit for you at the beaches.
And it will be a discussion.
We will discuss.
Yeah. All right. Anyone, any questions so far? You can reach out to any of the staff individually offline, but we are still here. I think we are done for tonight. And but if anyone wants to stay on and ask a question, you are welcome to. But I thank you all so much for joining, and we will see you on Saturday.
Thanks for your attention,
That's
everyone.
good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you guys did
Thank you
great.
all.
Great group. I
Great
know
to
it's
see
late.
everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thanks,
look forward
everyone.
to seeing you all Saturday morning.
We'll see you on Saturday.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Safe
Bye.
drives. I guess you're not driving. Safe evening.
I had a question.
Okay.
At the orientation, there was mention of being able to purchase binoculars. Is that still available? Or
So we have pro deals.
yeah,
We have pro deals for binoculars, and we can share that information directly with you.
great.
Kathy, do you have that?
Is it in the slideshow, Kathy?
No, it is not in the slideshow because the deals tend to change year by year. And it is something that is done, that there'll be a pro deal available through one rep for a brand called Vortex, but it is something that you have to email the rep directly and work directly through him. So I can put together like a step-by-step overview of how to do that. And in the meantime, I would suggest that you go online and Google the brand Vortex, Vortex, and just have a little look at the models that they offer. And on Saturday, I can talk with you about binocular models and what the numbers mean. A lot of times you'll have binocular brands or models that have a set of numbers associated with them, 7x30s or 8x42s. And if you're not sure what size or kind of binocular you want to use or purchase, we can talk about that on Saturday.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. And we have a nice little slideshow that we're going to be that'll be up on the portal that you can look at too, explaining the different facets of binocular use.
Okay,
We can
great.
have some loaners for you to check out on Saturday to try some different ones.
Great. And if you wear glasses, it's better to not have the glasses on when you're using the binoculars, right?
You can
No,
wear
not-
your, yeah, you can wear them. You just change the eye cups.
Okay.
I wear
Yeah.
mine with my glasses and my sunglasses all the time.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we can show you how
Yeah.
to adjust those eye cups.
Yeah, so Vortex makes a nice binocular. Last year they were very generous with their discount. So what you'll see
Okay.
on the retail page will be probably 40% or even more or less than what we get, what you would
Nice.
get.
Great.
So yeah,
Thank you.
All
yeah,
right.
sure.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you hear
Yeah.
me?
Yes.
Yes.
About setting people, when you're working with a team, setting up teams, do you try to put beginners with an experienced person for a while or for a year or how, or do you put all newbies together or?
It depends, Julia.
Uh-huh.
You know, some of the teams are asking for a new member because
Oh, that helps.
they've
Yes,
been going out, so then you would go with that team. They've already got it established what they're
right,
doing. Some teams, we need a new team on that beach, and it might
right.
be 2 new people. And hopefully, you know, maybe one is a little bit better birder or one's a little more mammal
Right.
oriented, and you'll round out each other's skill set. It
I
just
get it.
depends on where our needs are. We, after this training, this first phase, sort of, if you think of it that way, then we will go as mentors to each new team and go out with you at least 1 or 2
Good,
times.
more training.
So then you kind of have this additional training component where you can ask questions when you're really doing it for real. You can ask questions, and one of us will be with you to make sure you're comfortable going out on your own.
I get it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Very nice training.
Well, I hope so. I hope so. It's hard at night too, you know, and hopefully with the daylight savings, it'll be a little lighter longer, so it won't seem so dark when
Right.
we're
To drive to my next room.
yeah.
Anyway, good night.
All right.
Good night.
Thank
Nice to see you.
you.
See you Saturday.
Hey, see you Saturday.
Okay.
See you
Bye.
Saturday.
How do we- let's
How
see.
do I turn it off?
Bottom right is the leave button.
Hey.